So I get a chance to coach people who've done some amazing things, successful beyond words, and they come to me and say, but I'm empty. Like, I have all the accolades, I have all the money, I have all the houses, I have the trips around the world, but I still haven't touched my purpose. And so for a lot of people, I always talk about, what is your vision, mission, and purpose? Your vision is not just based on your sight, what you see in front of you. What's the thing that you're pursuing that's going to be there, that you're looking to accomplish 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? That's vision. What's the thing that you're doing consistently to make sure that you get one step closer, 1 degree closer to the thing that you're trying to accomplish?
You are here. Welcome to the Purpose Finder podcast. This is the show where we uncover why you are truly here, and more importantly, how to make it your reality. My father, the late Dr. Miles Monroe, said the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but life without purpose. And research further shows that people with a strong sense of purpose are 2.4 times more likely to feel fulfilled. Each week, I sit down with extraordinary guests, entrepreneurs, artists, thought leaders who are boldly living their why. We dive deep into their journeys, the struggles they've overcome, their breakthroughs, and the lessons that can help you do the same. I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe-Wilborn, and we're about to explore the mindsets, tools, and strategies to help you live a life with purpose, passion, and legacy. Are you ready? Let's go and dive into the episode. And we are back for another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast, where our mission is simple: to inspire you to find and uncover your purpose in life and to live it overflowing with 3 amazing things: meaning, fulfillment, and significance. Why? Because deep down, we all crave belonging. No one wants to feel unfulfilled, and we are all searching, asking the big question: why in the world am I here? But I hope you let your search end right here on the Purpose Finder podcast. I am your host, Charissa Monroe-Wilborn, and today I have the great privilege and honor of sitting down with someone who isn't just talking about purpose, but he's actually living it out boldly. We're going to dive deep into his story, his journey, and his lessons along the way to pursuing his purpose. And we're going to do that together. Help me welcome Jamal Vallair. Jamal, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. Because you could have been doing something else. You could have declined. You should have said no, but you didn't. And so we are grateful. Grateful. I know Jamal from the personal development space, and he's an amazing guy doing amazing things. And he's young. Young is relative, but for what he's doing and the platform that he's on and who he talks in the front of, he is doing great things. But we want to hear his journey on how he actually got there. And hopefully you can hear and see yourself in his story and say, if he can do it, so can I. Jamal, please tell us about yourself. They don't want to hear me read a bio. I'm not going to read a bio, but they do want to hear your heart. So let us know who you are, where you're from, all the great things you're doing in the world.
Absolutely. Thank you once again for having me. It is a privilege and an honor. My name is Jamal Vallair. I am a mindset, neuroscience, peak performance, and a leadership development coach. I have been in the military. I just retired at 38, 20 years of the military. So I did everything from aviation to leadership, organizational leadership, from also training and teaching people throughout the Navy on how to leverage coaching for high peak performance. I'm actually born in New York, but I was raised in Hawaii, and I call Stone Mountain, Georgia home. So I know what it means to be in transition. And what I'm most excited about is helping people transform their minds so they can step deeper into their purpose and have impact like they never had before. Many times we settle for safe when great is an option, and exceptional is a.
Oh, you starting already, Jamal? Come on, man. Come on. Let's get into it.
Look,
You said,
it is a passion. It is, and I think for this year I really want to be able to help people embrace endless possibility, not the safe version of what society, family, and friends have told you what is possible. And one of my declarations last year was, if it scares me, I'm going to lean into it. And that has opened up more opportunities than I've ever expected, but it's also brought me more income than I've ever had in my life because I was willing to step over the thing that scared me the most because somewhere along the line, I prayed for more. I just didn't know this was going to be the vehicle that more was going to show up in.
Let's go back to what you said, though. You dropped a nugget and a gem already. We're not even 5 minutes in to this episode. And you said people settle for safe when great is an option.
Yes.
Why? Tell us why people do that.
Well, I think one of the reasons is we praise mediocrity at such a high level. And so when you're a high performer, when you're gifted, you're talented, you can hide behind safe because other people don't know that you're operating at 70 or 50%. You get standing ovations for being average in this society that we have today. And so nobody challenges you to step into your greatness until you get around great people. And you either shrink or you're inspired. And so what I have learned is I wanted to understand, God, you've given me these you've given me gifts, talents. What is the maximized potential that I have? And how much of it am I not using? So many times we find the safe job, we find the safe career, we end up having bills and responsibilities, and the dreams that we had when we were younger, we put them in a box, and we say someday I'll go and after I get the kids grown, after I get the career, after I get the degree, we put happiness and fulfillment someday in the future that never shows up. And so it's important that we open that box again. And we understand that before I was put in my mother's womb, there was a dream and there was a purpose and a destiny inside of me. Let's unlock that box again. I understand you might feel like time has gotten away from you, right? I have too much responsibilities. One of the lies we always tell ourselves, we don't have enough time. But the average person watches at least 8 or 9 hours a week in TV. So you have the time, it's just not a priority yet. And so...
Wait a minute. Wait a minute, sir. You're going too fast. My people, slow it down.
All right, let's slow it down.
So it's not that we don't have the time. It is just not a priority right now. And I think let's talk about the time for a second, because one of the first things that you and I have the same coach, we were trained by Lisa Nichols. And when I trained with her one-on-one, one of the things I said to her was, I want to do all of this stuff, but I feel like I don't have enough time. And her first thing was, before we do anything, let's do some time management. And it was the practical stuff. Pull out your calendar, get a week, and write down everything. She said, every activity you do, even if it's eating, put it down. And we wrote it down and make a very long process short. You know, she had me go through all of my activities. And looking at my activities, she had me say whatever the result was, what was the result that activity was going to give me. And then based on the result, put that result in the calendar. And I mean, and she said, put everything on the calendar, because if it ain't on your calendar, it ain't getting done. And she said, if it's not on your calendar, it's also not important. So if eating is important to you, put it there.
Yes.
If 15 minutes of taking a shower is important to you, put fresh and clean on your calendar, because it matters. And it wasn't until I did that and to this day, and that's been about 4 years ago. 4 years later, Jamal, here I am with a calendar when I say everything is on it, when I need to take a dump is on my calendar, because it is that important. In case my doctor say, how is your body treating you and functioning? Sir, I use the bathroom every day, at least once at this time, But I love that you say it's not that we don't have the time. It is just not a priority. And it's important to say that, because people give excuses over and over again for how much they don't have the time to do what should be important to them. Had to stop there. He going too fast, but don't worry, guys. I got y'all.
Slow me down. Slow me down.
I'm going to slow you down.
One thing that you said that I thought was very insightful is many times we hide behind busy instead of being purposeful. Right? I have the kids, I got the family, I got the bills, I got the responsibility. That's busy. If God said I put you on this life to have life and more abundantly, then why are you just setting for survival? Right? And many times we just survive. I was talking with my therapist, and she's like, Jamal, you spent a large portion of your life in survival mode. And had she never brought that context, I would have never consciously said there must be something outside of survival. And so I had to look at some of my behaviors, my beliefs, and even challenge some of the things I had to unlearn to be able to have life outside of just scarcity and survival, because I was raised under that. You have to understand, I moved over 21 times before I was 18 years old. So I know what it means to constantly change different environments. I've lived in hotels, motels, basements. I've lived with other people. So for me, scarcity was normal. But the principle was, God, you didn't design me just to live in scarcity and survival. There's some other things that you promised to me. And so I had to be able to unlearn some of my limiting beliefs about what I could accomplish, who I
Mm-hmm.
was, and what was my purpose outside of my current situation. And I started to take a leap into, what am I doing outside of just being safe? Because my career was safe. I could have did the exact same thing for the next 25 years, had a pension, did everything. It was safe for me. And I was stationed in Japan in about 2013. And there was a sermon that I was listening by Bishop T.D. Jakes talking about living on purpose. And because of the time difference, I literally had to be up at like 2 o'clock in the morning to catch the sermon live because it was in Texas. And I was listening to that particular sermon, and it pushed me to do a deeper dive in, what is my purpose? Why am I here? Because I know I wasn't just put on this earth just to pay bills till I die. And so that started the conversation of, Jamal, what is the level of impact that you want to have on the world, and what's the vehicle that you want to do it through?
Mm. Mm. So, man, this is so good because we're hearing about all the things you've done. And you said, your therapist said for the majority of your life before, prior to where you are now, you lived in survival mode. Can we go back to the beginnings of
Absolutely.
who Jamal is and was, and how that may have affected, in a good way or a bad way, where you are now and your journey
Mm,
on to pursuing your purpose?
mm. So I'll start off with, um, everything that you've been through is not designed to be wasted. And the reason why I can say that is because I'm a miracle baby. At 6 months, I was diagnosed with spinal meningitis. My brain was completely fried, and doctors said, he's either going to, if he lives to 6 months, that will be a miracle. But if he makes it to 6 months, he's going to be a vegetable for the rest of his life. And so I learned coming into this world, that nothing happens by accident, but it's all God's purpose. And so by knowing that I get to live every single day, and I've never had any major neurological situations, I'm fully functioning. They say I'm crazy, but I got good sense. Um,
Aren't we all?
Look, right? You're just at the borderline, right? And so, as a result of learning about that, even from being brought into this world, it reminded me that, do not waste the moment, and that God is always somewhere in the midst of the chaos. Even though we may say it is chaos, He sees it as divinely orchestrated. And so, coming up from that, and then coming out, I had a stepfather and I had a biological father. I didn't meet my biological father till I turned 16, and then my stepfather was in my life till I was about 14. My stepfather, he was a great man, but he was a Desert Storm veteran in the Marine Corps, and when he came back, he never really the same. And even though he was a great father to me, he had a challenge with starting over. And so my mother and stepfather were getting divorced, and it led to a domestic violence situation. So now I am in a household where I'm told that I need to be the man of the house, and I've never seen it modeled healthily. I've never seen it modeled in a way that I wanted it to be. And so I had to learn, when that domestic violence situation took place. I had a brother and a sister. They're younger than me. And I said, God, don't let my stepfather not being here be a reason why my brother and I are not successful. My brother and sister and I are not successful. And so I was very intentional about making sure I didn't make certain mistakes, living a certain way, so I could be a shining example of what's possible. And my brother and sister, I said, my goal is for them to surpass me, right? I didn't want the absenteeism of my stepfather not being there, be the reason why we weren't who we were destined to be. And my brother and sister went on to do amazing things. They're still doing amazing things now. They both got the Bill Gates scholarship to their doctorate's degree. My sister is about to get her PhD in biology. She works for the CDC, and my brother is one of the youngest architects for crypto, when it comes to designing buildings. And like I said, they're just touching 30.
So what I hear, and I've heard this throughout
Mm,
the the guests that I've been having on the podcast, I've heard that even though, but without saying it,
mm,
I hear a common through line that even though there may be an absent father or an absent mother, absent parents,
mm,
um, it does not, and it has not prevented them from being great and living their great life. Now, for some, along the way, it was rocky, it was challenging, had to do some healing and some traumatizing work, and just it wasn't always a picnic. However,
Mm-hmm.
these have been people like yourself who are at the apex of their lives, millionaires and billionaires and persons who are fulfilling and living the life that they want. But yeah, 20, 30, 40, 60 years ago, I didn't have a father.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't allow that to be an ongoing excuse. Up to a certain point of your life, I agree with yes. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it could be not even a excuse at that point, but it can be part of the reason why maybe things are a little more challenging for you than it is for someone who had a two-parent home.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to be. But after some point, as you get far in your adulthood, then it becomes, but what decisions are you going to make?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is your story, but what are you going to do differently? Yes, that may be the case because we don't want to minimize
Mm-hmm. No.
people's upbringing. We don't want to minimize where they come from. We don't want to minimize their humble beginnings.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, we do have to take responsibility for the actions that we do going forward, especially as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be an adult married with children because now you're making
Ooh.
decisions for yourself and
Mm-hmm.
little ones who can make those decisions for themselves.
Absolutely. And I'm a product of a village raising a child. So what my mother was not able to do, what my biological father or my stepfather was not able to do, I had an aunt and uncle who showed up, who showed me almost like the rich dad, poor dad type of thing, where they showed me that there was a different life that you can live when you take care, when you focus on your education, when you focus on your goals being clear, when you show up in different ways. And so for me, I am a hybrid of a community coming together in the midst of what I thought was what I've learned is my parents couldn't give me what I needed, but God always made sure there was a surrogate who could stand in the gap. And if I had to be willing to release my parents from the obligation that it had to come to them, and or be able to embrace the surrogates that they were fully equipped and capable of giving me what I needed to be able to move forward. And so sometimes what is modeled for us gives us opportunity to be able to say, I can have more versus the brain saying, this is all I can have. And so that shifts from that scarcity to that growth mindset simply because exposure, once the brain has been exposed to something, it can no longer go back to what it used to be. This is why I'm a very for a lot of years in my life, I've always challenged, not challenged, but I've always seen myself as less than because I didn't go the academic route. So for a lot of times, it was if you don't have a master's degree, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, you're going to be working at McDonald's, is what I was told. You know, and I for a long time, I always measured my intelligence based on IQ when I was really, really exceptional in EQ, emotional intelligence. And so it
Mm.
allowed me to be able to navigate in rooms and spaces that I never had to have a degree in, but I showed up very, very powerfully. You can sit me in the back of any room, and by the end of the day, I'm going to be in the front teaching, leading.
Let's let's talk about those two different intelligences
Hmm.
and how they are different, why they are different, but also why they are both important.
Absolutely. So when it comes to IQ, it's based on their standardized testing your cognitive abilities just to be able to understand, some of your basics, math, reading, arithmetic, being able to break down concepts, being able to pay attention to information. Everybody has a level of genius. This is something that what was helpful for me, it's not if you're smart, it's how you're smart. And so many times IQ is just based on just your brain's ability to be able to be creative, be innovative, be able to come up with solutions to problems, but also how you see the world through your perspective. Now, the emotional intelligence is more of your ability to connect with other people, your relationships, right? Your ability to have empathy, your ability to be able to see social connections between other people and maximize on those particular. It's your level of awareness that you have that allows you to see them not just as a person, but as a human being who has a vision, mission, and purpose that you can connect them to. And so I was always measuring myself based on someone else's metric and discounting the metric that I was been designed to operate in. And so for a long time, I was very insecure about I wasn't smart because I didn't have degrees. When I didn't realize I was doing things exceptionally. At 18 years old, I was driving $250 million warship around the world at 18 years old. I understand. So I'm discrediting the things that are making me qualified because I'm looking at someone else's qualification that has nothing to do with my my vision, mission, and purpose. And so it is. I'm grateful now, and this is why I got into neuroscience, peak performance. And I studied under Sean Smith, who you know is a genius, as well as a neuroscientist by the name of Shantae Taylor. And so sitting underneath those two, they helped me flip the switch that there's nothing wrong with me. It's how I've trained my brain and my mind to have a certain perspective on my own life, and I can rewire it and reprogram it based on what I see, what I believe, and what I find evidence of. Because your brain is a prediction machine. And so many times when I learn, because sometimes for people it's like it's just feel it and it's gonna come. Right brain people, I mean, for your creatives, it's just feel it and go with the flow. And then for my left brain, analytical, black and white, it's like, no, you need to show me why this works. And so neuroscience was the connection between creativity and neural transformation that allowed me to be able to understand how it works, but also how I'm able to coach people who are just usually left brain analytical, who need to tap into creativity, but also how do I coach people who are in the creative space who need the structure for innovation because when you're gifted, you can be gifted in so many things and you have fractured focus. So I think what I've been able to learn that through principle is if I can renew my mind, I can get the opportunities of a lifetime simply because I was not willing to hold on to what I knew in the past for what's waiting for me in the future.
This is too good, and especially about the emotional intelligence. 'Cause I think it's something now
Mm.
that people are getting wind of. They're now starting to make it a part of who they are, part of their new learning, and it's so important. And one of the things that you and I talked about on the side was how now being a girl dad.
Oh man.
Let's talk about it. Let's
Oh
talk about
man. So I've always been obsessed because of the absence in my house when I was coming up. I've always been obsessed with what does it take to be a man, right? Not just based on the world, society, and podcasts. What does it mean to be a man? And so one of the people that I did study was Dr. Miles Monroe because he had a lot of understanding about fathers. Because my absence made me go search for something that was missing. So for a lot of people who grew up in a household with a father, there was no mystery to what a man was supposed to be. He was there. But for me, because the absence, it made me go out and seek different people who mirrored what I wanted to become, and I would study them because I'm obsessed with mastery. So people who are in their mastery space, I studied for hours and watched and listened to be able to understand the concepts of how they framework their existence. And I've always wanted to understand what it means to be a father and a man. And so when it came to being a dad, um, man, it is by far one of the most humbling and rewarding experiences of my life. Um, my youngest is Ayana Amari Vallair. I named her, and it is
you said that so proudly.
oh when I tell
I
you
named her. Let it
I
be known.
because your name has purpose, and I said
Absolutely.
every name
Absolutely.
that I give her needs to be a reflection of who she's going to show up to be in the world,
Mm.
and oh, grateful. Sometimes you need to be able to have a moment that you didn't think other people get to be able to remind of how much God loves you. Because the same level of protection I have of my daughter, of the smallest things, God has about me. And many times we have this disconnect between God is all the way over there. He doesn't care about the details of what I ask or what I need. And then he gives you a gift that just knows just to love you unconditionally. And so what it brought out was taught me more about my daughter showed me a part of my heart that I didn't know existed. And the more I started to lean into it, because usually it's when it's foreign, you run away from it. But my love for my daughter has opened up parts of me to be more empathetic, more compassionate, actively listening to other people's challenges in a different way, where I'm not just listening to the problem, I'm listening to the why behind the problem. Right? I'm listening to things that are not being said. I have a different level of attunement to their mind, body, and their spirit to be able to unlock answers that they have for themselves. because they have a safe space to be able to share it in. And for me, just the small things. My daughter, I said, Dad, when Daddy has this, this light on, this is her time where she's like, Daddy, can I get 3 cookies? Because this is negotiation time.
Why are you
Um,
guys like that? Why are I can't even say men? Why are dads like
it
oh,
is, it
my
is.
husband is the same way. We have a 2-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
2-year-old daughter, only child at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And he lets her do things that I would otherwise say no to right in front of me. So, but I would say no. And he would say, okay, honey. Okay, baby. Mom said no. Daddy will give it to you later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, really? That's what we doing as
We
parenting?
already, you have to be united front. I'm the only one that
But
tells my daughter no.
I
Everybody else in the
understand.
family says it yes, tells her yes. So
Really,
yeah,
it's the other way around for us.
everybody else, and she's a master negotiator at 7. So
Our
when she sees this light, she knows I can't go back and forth with her. So she's
uh,
like, Daddy, can I get 3 cookies? And she knows that's going to be the limit that I have whenever I have this light on. But it is just her level of awareness of I don't have to worry about that because my daddy said. Like I'm
mm,
really, really big on being a man of my word. And
hmm
so for her entire life, she knows as soon as she gets me to say yes, it's not a matter of when. It's not a matter if he's is he going to renege or she'll be like Daddy said, and she'll quick to call me on my word. Daddy, remember you said, and God says the same way that she does that for you, I want you to make sure that you go back
absolutely,
to me because there's some promises that I gave for you. There's some opportunities
exactly.
that I set up for you. And the
Declare
very way
them.
that your
Yes.
7-year-old is very more mindful of what you promised her and she's willing to cash it in. I want you to have that same attitude when it comes to the things that I have for you in your life and your purpose. And so I thought I was the adult until I had a 7-year-old ask me why 17 times. I was like, baby, I don't even know.
Absolutely.
But it
But it's
shows
the very thing that we should be doing for ourselves,
absolutely.
especially when it comes to trying to discover and figure out and find and uncover your purpose in life.
Hmm.
You should be asking why. Every time you come up with an answer to that why, you should be asking why again and asking why again until you get down to the root of truly to the core of this is the true why. This is
Because your
why
why
I'm
can be superficial. It can be your, I want to
yes.
make my parents proud. I want to make society see that I'm worthy. And then you realize you've chased that for 10, 15, 20 years and you got to the top of the mountaintop and it's unfulfilling. There's no sense of purpose. It's empty. So I get a chance to coach people who've done some amazing things, successful beyond words. And they come to me and say, but I'm empty. Like I have all the accolades. I have all the money. I have all the houses. I have the trips around the world, but I still haven't touched my purpose. And so for a lot of people, it is, I always talk about what is your vision, mission, and purpose? Your vision is not just based on your sight, what you see in front of you. What's the thing that you're pursuing that's going to be there that you're looking to accomplish 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? That's vision. What's the thing that you're doing consistently to make sure that you get one step closer, 1 degree closer to the thing that you're trying to accomplish? Your mission is heart centered. Your brain always is going to give you facts. It's going to be an analysis paralysis. It's going to tell you the safest thing because the brain was never designed for fulfillment. It was designed for safety. And so if you treat that organ as if, oh, no, 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 it's going to give me fulfillment. No, 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 no. The heart brings fulfillment.
That's a good lesson right there. The brain was not created for
The brain was never designed for fulfillment. It was only
it's
designed for safety.
safety.
So when you decide to
Safety.
do when you decide to do the thing that you haven't figured out, if I decide I want to do a new career, if I want to go start a business, if I want to go to do the thing that's courageous that I don't have any evidence that I can do, the brain is automatically going to shut it down. The brain is automatically say we don't have an outcome that we know that's going to be definite that we can do it, and so you go back to safe because you're going to need evidence and support. One of the big top reasons why a lot of people don't reach their goals is because they don't have accountability, they don't have strategy, and they don't have support on how to get there. So if I never tell you about my big dream or my big goal, what do? I put it in a box and I put it in the shelf until I see someone else living in that dream that I put in the box. And I might be inspired to say, oh, I knew I could do that. Have you ever seen anybody who was doing something that you wanted to do and you were like, if they can do it, I know I and sometimes God will allow you to be able to see people doing it at an average level when you were born to do it at an exceptional level. just to provoke you to be able to say that dream that you put in the box on the shelf, go pick that thing back up. So vision, mission, and purpose is always, I kind of do it based on visuals. It's vision, mission, purpose. Look at what's in your hands. Many times we look at other people and say, I should be further along, I should be able to do this, but we discount the gifts and the talents that he's put in our hands. And when he made us, he said, I put everything I needed in, I put everything that was necessary for you to be successful inside of your hands. You haven't cultivated the gifts and the talents that you have. One of the principles that I stand on is your gift will make room for you when you honor and master your gift. Many times we don't go into mastery. We settle for
Well,
just being
and then
good.
we just leave it there. We
Mm,
just say your gifts will make room for you. Period.
yes.
But I love that you've taken it a step further.
Mm.
That they will make room for you once you master them, once you
Honoring the
perfect them,
gift
once
and
you honor
mastering the
them.
gift are what allows you not to see this as, for other people it might be average, but for you in your hand it becomes exceptional. A
Mm,
basketball in my hand seems average, but a basketball in LeBron James' hand is exceptional. What is the
amazing.
thing that God has given you that you didn't have to go study, that you naturally are able to do, that's undercultivated, that hasn't been, that you've been making money off of just because you've been operating at 50%, but you've never stepped into your 100%. And that is the thing that cultivates the thing you've been praying for.
I think about the young boys today,
Mm-hmm.
young men and women, but especially the young boys, because my husband has a nonprofit where he mentors boys,
Mm-hmm.
young men. And one of the questions he asks them all the time, and they start from fourth grade all the way up to high school and beyond. And he asks them, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or what do you
Mm-hmm.
want to do? And every one of them, especially now, this generation that we're in now, everybody wants to either be a basketball player, an NFL player, a rapper, or an actor. They want to be these. And are we telling them, no, you can't? No. However, we're also looking at them
Mm-hmm.
and we're saying, you want to be this. But in 10th grade and 7th grade, you're not doing anything to perfect the skill to be a great basketball player, to be a football player, to
Mm-hmm.
be the best rapper and actor you can be. We see you playing video games all the time. You talking on the phone to some girl at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old anyway, doing everything else but on the court, but on the field. Like you're not. And so we're like, okay, good. You want to be a basketball player. When was the last time that you was on the basketball court?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know. Well, do you really and truly? Because when you think about those of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, they live, eat, and sleep
Mm-hmm.
basketball. When basketball is out of season, they are in off season. I promise you,
Mm-hmm.
they are practicing. They are on the court. They are in the gym. They are looking at plays and how they can elevate themselves. They're honoring and perfecting
Mm-hmm.
the gifts that they have so that they can truly expand
Yeah.
in that gift, therefore reaching their purpose. And so we try to encourage them to think about things, however, that you can do that that does bring you joy, especially those trade
Mhm.
jobs.
Yeah.
It may not be on I found, speaking of trade, I found out just recently that one of the top highest paying jobs right now is plumbing. Who would have thought
Six-figure job.
that a plumber could possibly be making the most money
Mm-hmm.
right now? It is the one thing that I promise you this generation today will look at and said, not me,
Beneath me. Right.
not me. But
And I
it's
think
the
it's
very thing
exposure.
that can elevate you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think it's exposure. One thing that I am I'm very, very passionate is speaking into our young boys, because our young boys become someone's father, uncle, husband. And many times we have conferences, we have events for little girls, teenage girls, and women. I go to conferences all the time. It's 80%, 90% women. And we don't have enough focus on how do we build up our little boys to become men, right? What's that rite of passage? And so one of the things I'm very passionate about is asking, one of the most intimidating questions is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because it requires you to know automatically, and you haven't been exposed. You only want based on what you've been exposed to. So for a lot of people, becoming an athlete is the only thing that they've seen people step out of what they look like on a normal basis. But when you've been exposed to more, I spend a lot of time asking people who are successful, what's your dream? And you'd be surprised how many times I was like, nobody's asked you this in the last 5 years. What's your dream? I said, this is a space where your dream gets to have legs and get to walk. This is a place where you get to cultivate and says, I may have got disrupted because life got in the way, but my dream is still my dream. And we don't have to worry about you vicariously living your dream through your children because they all have their own dreams. And sometimes it's important to be able to ask the tough question and not have the answer right now. Allow them to be able to ruminate. I'm like, what do I really want? Because the lifespan of being an athlete is no more than 10 years usually. LeBron is the exception. So what do you, out of the 10 years, God promised you at least 70. What do you want to do with the rest of the other years that you've been given? Because that might be one vehicle, but that's not all who you are. And I think many times, even as adults, we hide behind our identity behind our job. Our occupation becomes our identity. Usually, when we talk to people, we don't say, "Hey, my name is Jamal Vallair. I am I'm a motivational speaker or a transformational strategist." It is, "Hi, I work for the Navy. I'm an analyst. I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer," and that becomes your identity. Even if you hate it, statistically, most people have jobs or have degrees in spaces that they don't want to do in the next 10, 15 years. But you've made that your identity. And I think many times it's going back to the drawing board and saying, no, who am I outside of the things that I do? Who am I? And when I'm coaching deeper, I was like, who are you outside the people that depend on you? Because we make that our identity. So when the kids get grown, I'm going to start going after the thing that I really wanted to do. Right? Or when this happens, we always post a purpose and destiny to some date in the future versus in the now. And when we're able to say, no, what's the thing that I can do today that's going to shift me closer to what I prayed for? That's where you're operating in purpose. And then also, who am I connecting? Like, I believe there's three people that you should have in your life to make you successful. You want somebody who's 10 steps ahead of you. You want somebody who is step in step with you. And you want somebody that you can pour into that you're 5 steps ahead of. Because those three layers of accountability don't let the person who doesn't know but is looking for you to be able to support them, to be able to pour into them what they can't pour back into you, they inspire you. The person who's walking step by step with you, their accountability of possibility because they're going in the same direction. And the person who is 10 steps ahead of you allows you to navigate and save time and mistakes based on trial and error to be able to give you the motivation and inspiration and saying, this is part of the process. Keep going.
So let's slow down. Let's get it because I want my people to get it. Those in the back don't always get it.
Okay.
So you need 3 people in your life to help you be successful.
Absolutely.
One who is 10 steps ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
The second person who is walking with you.
Yes.
And the third person is someone that walking 5 steps behind you that you can pour into.
Yes.
Inspiration, accountability, and the first one represents.
So the first one, the 5 steps behind is going to be the one that inspires you.
That inspires
right?
you.
The accountability is the person is going to be on the side of you, and the person who is purposeful, who gives you the wisdom and perspective, is going to be the person that's 10 steps ahead of you. And so this is by cultivating that, it gives you accountability on 3 different layers. Someone telling you that there's more for you in the future, so you don't settle. You have the accountability on the side saying you're not going to go through this alone, but some chapters you're going to have to go by yourself, and some you're going to make sure that you're aligned with someone else so you can go further quicker. And then the person who can't pour back into you, that you're 5 steps ahead, they're going to help you not quit. Because if you quit, there's generations. I'm a firm believer that every person that I speak to, I'm speaking to 3 generations after them. So if you have if you shift someone in your life 3 generations after you, that shift is a ripple effect. My responsibility is not necessarily there's a principle that says one man waters the seed, one man plants the seed, one man waters the seed, but God creates the increase. Whenever I'm talking to somebody, I'm either planting a seed or watering it. My conversations are not just head to head. It's spirit to spirit because your spirit already knows.
And it goes both ways, Jamal.
Absolutely.
It means that we must also be careful what it is that we are doing, what it is that we are saying, and
Yes.
what it is that we are speaking into people, because we're talking all positive stuff right now. But the negative stuff also matters. The negative also ripple. Hence why you have these, what they call, we hear them as generational curses, because what my dad, what your dad does to you, what some other uncle, some other man If they violate you, they have the possibility of violating three generations thereafter.
Mm,
Because how you deal with that violation emotionally, mentally, spiritually, psychologically could very well affect every human being that you bring into the world,
mm,
and so forth and so on.
mm.
So we have to get to a place where we are willing to sit in transformational spaces
Yes.
that allow us to break those generational curses.
Mm.
Oh,
Whew, when you said that, it triggered a thought of it's something called epigenetics. That these certain things are passed down through your genes.
hey, purpose seekers. If this conversation has you thinking about your purpose, what it is, how to find it, and how to truly live it, then I have something just for you. Introducing the Purpose Finder Formula. And you have the free access to my 20-minute training designed to help you uncover your purpose and to start living it with confidence. No fluff, no guesswork. It's clear, practical, step-by-step guide to finding meaning and gaining clarity and direction. Your purpose is calling. Are you ready to answer? Head over to www.charissamonroe.com/purpose finder formula. Enter your info and I'll send it straight to your inbox. Imagine waking up every day knowing your life has meaning, impact, and joy. That's what awaits you. So don't wait. Grab your free training today. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Ooh, when you said that, it triggered a thought of it's something called epigenetics. That these certain things are passed down through your your generational DNA, just by experiences. And the beauty of understanding about neuroscience is you can always come up with you can have a new belief system that overrides it. When we talk about neurogenesis or neuroplasticity, it's the brain's ability to be able to take on a new concept to override an old one. So even though you may have been conditioned, and I always tell people you've either conditioned or it's a behavior you learned. And the reason why I say that is because your environment can cultivate an environment where you can see yourself as rich, or you can see yourself as poor. You can see yourself as not having enough, or you can say you can be in a space where you have more than enough. Your environment can cultivate. For example, I was raised on the other side of the train tracks, so I know what scarcity is. But till I was exposed to an aunt who will operate from a place of abundance, I knew that I was a decision away from being able to say I can either have that or I can have that. Had I not been exposed to her, I would have thought this is all I can have, right? And so for even for me, when it came to becoming a speaker, for almost 5 years of my life, 5 years, I had a friend of mine, and this is why you need, I call them destiny investors, people who speak to your destiny and your purpose outside of time. And the reason why these people are so, I believe greatness leaves clues, but it also leaves crumbs. And so many times it is being able to know that you have been, if I understand my steps are ordered, I have to be able to trust my next step. And so sometimes these destiny investors are just checkpoints to be able to say, you might want to go down this direction. You might want to go down this way. And so for 5 years, I had a friend of mine who saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And for 5 years, because I was dealing with rejection, I was dealing with not being worthy, not being enough. I was dealing with so many different internal conversations that were reinforced by my environment, or I perceived them to be true, that the opportunity of a lifetime was knocking on my door for 5 years, and I didn't know it. And so for 5 years, I was like, no. She's like, she's like, you should be a speaker. And I said, there's nothing special about me. I moved over 21 times, so my scarcity came in the conversation of how you're going to be able to take care of yourself, take care of your family, find something. No, I don't know anybody who's being paid to do what they love. Go find a safe job. And my inner bully, my inner critic was, who's going to listen to you? There's nothing special about your story that anybody would want to listen to. And so for 5 years, I was telling my friend no, when I secretly wanted to say yes, but I just didn't know how it was going to be possible. Many times when the why is big enough, the how will find a way. And many times how becomes so intimidating that you give up on the dream prematurely. And so on the fifth year,
that again, sir. Down. When the why,
when the
go
why
ahead.
is big enough,
When
the
the
how
why
will find
isn't
a
big
way,
enough.
right? Many times our
Mm.
why is just for us. And that's the difference between having a good idea and a God idea. A good idea is just going to take care of you and make sure that you got food on the table. A God idea is going to affect an entire group of people, a community, a society, a state, a country, whatever the case may be. Could it be possible that your dream is too small, and God would never let you settle for small when He designed you to be great? And so, one of the things that I have had to come to understanding it was 5 years. 5 years is like 260. Is like 260 weeks. 100, no, it's 1,865 days around that of telling my dream no.
Why do you know this?
because
Why do
I
you know these weeks and days of 5 years?
because I had to take accountability to how many times I said no to my dream, and wake up every
Um,
single day knowing that
you
there
know
was a
what that
yes
is a
available.
key. Ugh,
I had to take accountability because we think that tomorrow is promised. And he says
and it ain't.
sometimes you have to go back and say how much time that you thought was promised has gotten, because you keep on telling me that you can't do it, you don't have enough time. I want to show you how much time I gave you and how much you neglected with the time that I gave you to do what I told you to do.
So, Jamal, you mentioned three things that people today are currently facing when it
Mhm,
comes to being successful, when it comes to wanting to be great,
mhm,
and when it comes to pursuing their purpose: self worth, a lack of self worth,
mhm,
rejection, and failing.
mhm,
How did those things look and play in your life when they were present, and then how did you deal with now getting out of that on the other side of lack of self-worth, on the other side of rejection, on the other side of failure?
mhm. So I'm glad that you asked that question because it doesn't go away. So as I
Mm.
was looking at how much time I
Mm.
wasted, I had to give myself grace. And what the principle of grace is, it's nothing you can earn or nothing you have to work for. It's a gift that you have to be open to receive. And so I had to forgive myself for the time that I wasted because I thought I should be further along than I am right now. One. Number two is when I finally said yes to the opportunity. My friend said, I've been telling my family about you for 5 years. And in my head, I said, what's so special about me that that you would tell your family about me for 5 years? She says, my grandfather is Les Brown, one of the most well known motivational speakers in the last 20 to 50 years. And I was secretly saying no to the person who was going to train me on how to step into my next, when I say mastery, his ability to communicate and tell stories, masterful. And I sat and watched his gift in full operation. I said, I have no excuse. Because one of the things that me and God, I said, God, if you can show me who's doing something if you can show me someone who's doing what I think is impossible, I have no excuses. I said, but if it's really true for me, let me shake their hand. And so I have a list of people that I've studied over the years, and I said, I want to be able to meet this particular person. How I meet them is not my responsibility. But when I meet them, it is about the capacity that they operate in. And so Les Brown, when I finally said yes, I got a phone call on my birthday. He says, I heard you finally said yes to an opportunity. And I said, I think I'm ready. And so this is why I'm talking about being fearful or self-esteem doesn't go away. It is motivation is only good for 90 days, right? Sometimes we say motivation is good as a shower. You're gonna have to take motivation multiple times. But there's a difference between being motivated and being inspired. Motivation is something that is a short-term fuel. It's based on emotion. Inspired is a heart-centered conversation about how I want to show up and live and be able to experience this world. And so when I'm inspired, I step in, it gives me a longevity for the goals that I want to reach. One of the things that I had to realize is I have to constantly be renewing my mind about who I am and what God says about me. Number one. Number two, I have to make sure that I'm in constant action because I can get stagnant in safety, but safe places are where dreams go to die. And so if I'm not in consistent action,
Oh, safe places are
safe
where
places
dreams
where
go to
dreams
die.
go to die,
Ugh.
because complacent will strangle potential.
Mm.
It will strangle
Complacency
it.
will strangle potential.
So I have a responsibility to consistently take action. I don't have to, you don't need faith for the familiar. And so it's my responsibility to lean in to say,
You
if it
wait.
scares me,
Can we
I'm
slow
gonna
him
lean
down,
into
ladies
it.
and gentlemen? Ladies and gentlemen, I will always be on your side. Okay? You're going to slow Jamal down. Jamal said, faith is not needed for the familiar. That means you only need faith when you're dealing with the unknown, when you're dealing with what's foreign. that is the very definition
Mm,
of what faith is and why it's needed. Like
mm,
we should always be trotting and wanting to get to unfamiliar territory.
mhm,
And also remember that along with that faith, fear is also going to be present. And I
mm.
love that you said that those things don't go away.
They don't.
They don't go away.
Mm.
Keep. Okay, go ahead. Keep talking.
So
Keep talking about it
let's
because
unpack.
I'm gonna slow you down.
Let's unpack fear. Fear, because we fear gets a bad connotation. It gets a bad rep. It's not honored. You're not supposed to be fearful. We teach about this, especially in the spiritual space of faith. Fear is such a bad thing. And fear, what I've learned from one of my mentors is fear says, I need more information. I need accountability. I need a strategy. I need support on how to get there. So many times we get stuck in the analysis paralysis of number one. We
Wait, give us
collect
those four
information.
things again.
So
Fear is telling you that you need
I
more
need more
information.
information. I need a strategy. I need accountability, and I need support. When I have these four things, my fear becomes my fuel for success. Because now I'm informed, I have action steps on how to get there. I have accountability, so even if I fall, I'm falling forward. But I also have support to be able to say I have resources and people who can help me get there. So many times is we treat fear as an enemy when it's really trying to inform us of our blind spot. I don't care if you're driving a Bentley or a Prius, you have a blind spot. And so fear says, I need you to be aware of this because this could be a liability to the dream that you want to operate. This could be a liability to your purpose. But once you are informed, one of the biggest challenges, we spend a lot of time in analysis paralysis. We will hoard information just so we don't have to take action. And so it is very important that you now have an action step, a strategy that's attached to what your information that you've collected, because now you have ability to be able to have measured results with action. Many times we have measured results about thoughts, not action. And so that's why we're not able to constantly move forward into purposes because we say, I had it all figured out in my head, but you're the only person who knows it.
Mm.
So how do other people? How does it shift from one realm of the mind into the spirit, into the natural, where other people can help cultivate the very thing or support you to get to the place that you need to be if it's only locked up in your head? This is why the principle of writing out the vision is very, very important, because the brain looks for specificity. If it's not specific, vague goals turn into vague results. And so you have to make sure that I'm specific on what I want. There's a quote that I'm always inspired. It says, talent hits a target that most people can't hit. Genius hits a target most people can't see. I want you to step into your genius. If I started talking to you like you were a genius, you would show up differently. And many times we keep on seeing ourselves as average when God has really called us to be exceptional. And sometimes exceptionalism comes with some negative connotations. It's because I just want him to fit in. But how can you fit in with people you're supposed to lead? You're supposed to be empathetic to understand their challenges, but you've been called for something bigger, something greater. And sometimes that comes with isolation. That comes with some people having a misunderstanding about who you are, with having labels. Like some of the things that I'm doing, I really never asked for this. I have to pay the price for this. And sometimes for a lot of people, the price is too expensive. It is easier to die in safety than live in your greatness for a lot of people. And so many times, if you're a dreamer, I ask you that your dream is going to be bigger than you, but you're always going to pay the price. This is one thing that I used at one of my keynotes. Greatness never goes on discount. It costs what it costs. In order to be able to have what you prayed for, you're going to have to make some sacrifices that average people are never willing to make.
Greatness never goes on discount.
One of my
Remember,
favorite.
oh, and how many times do we give away our greatness for free, much less on discount?
Woo.
How many times do we even think that our greatness isn't even worth anything, much less put it on discount?
As long as I'm giving someone else the calculator to calculate my worth, it will always be depreciating. But this is going to be the season where you start to take the calculator and you get to add tax. When you go to the store, when you go buy a car, when you buy a house, you don't say, hey, leave out the tax. This is going to be the season where you say, I'm going to add my worth up, and I'm going to add tax. Because many times when you realize that there's momentum there, there's the rule of 72, there's compound interest. What I learned at this chapter of my life, that everything that I had to go through, every bad situation that statistically says I should not be where I am, it was only a down payment on my destiny. It was only a down payment. I said that I wanted to be great and I had to pay a certain price. So if it means me coming from an absentee household, me having to deal with spinal meningitis, me having to find my purpose as a man based on God's principles, not the world's principles. If it means me being isolated for the first 15, 20 years of my life, if it means all these different things, being misunderstood, lied on, disappointed, all these different things, it was part of my process. It was part of me learning how to be able to step into different rooms and operate in my power and my genius versus shrinking when the opportunity presented itself. And so you're going to pay a price for what you for the gifting and the anointing on your life, but I'm here to tell you it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it if you're really focused on saying, okay, you really get to use me, just parts of me that I think other people want.
Man, that's good. That's good. And so help us understand, Jamal, as a mindset, neuroscience performance coach who has coached, I don't know, a massive amount of people at this point. Help us to understand, why do you think so many people struggle with, and I'm going to take this question a little further,
Okay.
not only struggling with finding their purpose, because I don't think that people struggle with the finding.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people struggle with, and we may have been talking about it this whole time, people struggle with when they finally do discover it, they don't either know how, or they don't now start living it out.
Mm.
Why do you think that so many people that struggle with that?
So many times you hear the conversation, follow your passion is going to lead to your purpose. That may not
Mhm.
always be the case. Sometimes your greatest pain is also the seed form of your greatest purpose. There may be chapters in your life that you have not healed, or that you whisper, or you hurry, flip the pages over. That might be the very chapter of the season that God may use to operate you in your purpose. So I don't always say follow your passion. Sometimes you have to retrace your pain of where you need to heal, because that may be the very place that God wants to use you the most. But when purpose shows up, it shows up in seed form. It doesn't show up as a tree. And so many times when we see our purpose,
Slow down, slow down.
one of the
Purpose
reasons,
does not
look,
show up as a tree.
doesn't show up as
It
a tree.
shows up in seed form.
And seeds are small.
Ah,
They're
are
easily to
small.
look. It's easy to look over those, because you said, God, I want to be this big tree that people can see from a distance, can see value, and can be cut down to be used for multiple different things that can be monetized. And He shows you the seed, and we don't nurture the seed. It doesn't look like what we prayed for, so we neglect it, or we overlooked it, or say, "Oh, it can't happen through that particular video." We look at purpose from a place of how do I benefit from it, versus how do I become a servant and a vessel that the blessing and the gift comes through. And so many times we don't step into our purpose because it's not sexy, it's not the billboard part, but you have to understand that behind the curtain there's still work that needs to be done. And so many times, a lot of people step over their purpose because they're sitting in a place where all the flashy light says this is what purpose is. They see all these Instagram reels of what purpose is. They see social media, friends and family dictating this is what your purpose is. I disappointed a lot of people, because for a lot of people they only saw me as potentially a pastor. That's all they saw
I
me
can
as.
see how they can see that.
They got a lazy eye. They can't see straight. Anyway,
Oh,
but what I love, and I think this is why I have such an admiration for Dr. Miles Monroe and Bishop T.D. Jakes, is because I get to be more than just that. I get to be an author. I get to be a philanthropist. I get to be on the board of orchestras on music. I don't get to die in a box. I don't get to live in a box then die in a box. Like, and what I loved was that I can be so many different things, but I can't be all of them at once. So let me focus my attention on something, because once I focus my attention on that, that becomes a stepping stone for the next thing. And you realize all these different chapters were a part of being able to build up the character and the person for the purpose, for the dream, for the elevation of being seen. One of the things I had to give myself is permission to be seen. I was great at being able to stand behind other people's greatness and brand. I served at an exceptional level. But one of my biggest challenges was giving myself permission to be seen, to be the product of transformation, to be the product who's the person that said, go call Jamal. He's going to help you get unstuck. I was like, I'm fine with being in a group of other people and letting someone else be great. But I had to be able to say, and one of my mentors says, this is the last season where you're glad and excited about being in the room. I need you to step into your authority of being an authority in the room. And it humbled me. It humbled me because I would have gladly just settled for being in the room when I had no idea that God called me to be in the room, to be able to transform the room with my words, with my wisdom, with my perspective, but also being a vessel willing to be used.
I love how you talk about that authority. And then also how you talk about, having all of these gifts
Mm,
and, having these different layers of purpose, but there being a season for each and every one of them.
absolutely.
And, my dad really well, Dr. Miles Monroe, he had so many gifts. And anytime people say to me, well, if my purpose is one thing, I always use him as an example, because for a part of his life, people don't even believe it. He was a musician. He was a part of a whole group in the Bahamas. He was a guitar player. He was the piano player, sang very well. I mean, this group was rocking, made it in front of the prime minister. People still talk about it today. People still talk about it today, the Visionaries. Then he went from that same kind of around the same time he was doing that. And afterwards, he was an artist. So he painted, he drew. Like nobody wanted to be on the opposing team when we were playing Pictionary with dad, because while the other team is drawing stick figures, he got 5D going over here and we getting those answers right away. Like he was a beautiful artist.
Mm-hmm.
Then beyond that, he was a teacher and a businessman.
Mm.
This is all before
Boy.
we're talking about Pastor Miles Monroe.
Yes.
And then he went from pastor and then became a government consultant,
Mm-hmm.
and just became beyond all of that. But he was all of this as a one person.
Mm.
And his vision is what was big. It never changed.
Mm.
And his vision was always to transform followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. The how, like his purpose is what led him into these different rooms, if you will, these different ways. So he was not an artist, a musician, a pastor. He wasn't all of those things ever at one time. I could remember when he drew his retirement painting. Like he drew a painting and then he labeled it retire. Like he drew a ship. It was a boat that he drew, color painting and everything. And then the boat was called Retired. And it was the last painting he did, because now he was transitioning into focusing, like you say, on now being a pastor and being a leader of governments and leaders. That was his focus. But he did what he loved for a very long time. It made him money. It made people happy. So there are people whose homes still have Miles Monroe's painting in the home. Auctions, he would draw paintings and art pieces for auctions, and I mean these things would go for hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. But that is what brought him joy. And when it was time for that to now transition out,
Mm.
he did that, and he did that gracefully. And if you needed him every so often to tap into it, he was
Yes.
always. We played Pictionary all the time, and everybody wanted to be on Daddy's.
Absolutely. I
field.
understand. Look, I understand. That is
People come
beautiful.
looking for who you are. They come looking for what you have. And we talk about gifts all the time,
Mm-hmm.
because what these can produce,
Yeah.
what comes from these,
Yeah.
people get to experience. People experience your gifts.
Mm.
They experience your talents. And then they experience the goodness of them, the greatness of them.
Yes.
And I don't want to taste safe when I taste a fruit. I want to taste something new. Or that is
Yeah.
good.
Mm.
So this is good stuff. Good stuff.
I love. Thank you for sharing that, because you put the context in such a perfect way of I can be more than just one thing. And most people spend their entire life trying to just be one thing. And this brings me to one of my favorite quotes, that you can be a work in progress and a masterpiece at the same time. And many times I can't, he can't use me because I'm under construction. You can't build yourself to what you want to be in the first place. But when God sees you, he sees you as a masterpiece. And only the painter gets to say when the masterpiece is complete. This is the beauty of what you just shared, is that it's not this or that, it's and in both. I get to be constructed and being molded like a marble, and I'm also being able to be have the affirmation. And when God sees me, He sees me through His Son as, you're perfectly made in my image. I don't make no mistakes. That you're gifted, and I don't take back any of your gifts or your talents based on how you operate. I give those because you need those to be able to create some level of impact. I kind of look at it as dropping my pebble in the lake. I don't know how many ripples are going to take place, how far that lake is going to go out to the potential ocean, but I'm going to make sure that every day I drop my pebble into the lake. So there's a ripple effect that Jamal was here, that Jamal created some level of impact. And so it may be a conversation, it may be a keynote, it may be coaching, it may be just showing up and speaking life into our youth. But there has to be a response. I have a responsibility that once I've equipped with something, that I don't waste it, that I don't take all of my greatest opportunities, gifts, talents to the grave with me. That is one of the things that one that Dr. Miles Monroe said. One of the most expensive places in the world is the graveyard, because those are the books that have not been written. Those are the ideas, creative inventions that have not been created, mainly because they settled for safe, but also because no one was willing to affirm that they could do it,
Mm.
that they were going to be the one. They were looking at someone else who they thought was more gifted and talented, but you were the missing ingredient to being able to change the world. And so many times, the idea of changing the world is going to be very intimidating, but how does it get started without you? And so I love that particular point of being able to say every chapter, I can look at my life, every chapter, even some of the chapters that I quickly just skip over. Those are the places that I'm able to create the deepest level of impact in other men's lives, because of what I had to go through and I had to heal through. What happened to you
Mm.
is not your responsibility. What happened to you is not your fault, but healing is always your responsibility.
Responsibility. Yes, yes, yes. And I love that you brought to the forefront and to light that embracing, how important it is to embrace both and.
Mm,
Like that is when you get to live the life you want. That is when you get to embrace and truly have the life you want versus having to choose. So it's either or.
hmm
Man, you want both, but I can only choose one. No, you truly can't have it all, just not at the same time.
That's the scarcity mindset.
And absolutely. And so I think about, I always think about, especially in my life, this chapter that
Mm,
I'm in now in my life where I'm wife. Now I'm a new mother. Of course, my first daughter is 2 years old. Um, I'm a new mother, but then I also am this great human being who's doing great things in the world. So I have clients that I coach. I have a podcast that I'm doing. I have these programs that I'm running. And society would like to tell me, in order for you to be an efficient and well-rounded wife and mother, you got to give up
ooh,
being what you are to the world.
mm.
Jamal, this may not be the place for me to
Free
go
the
on this,
people.
but
Free
let
the
me tell
people.
you something. The mission that I was on
Mm,
when I got pregnant with my first daughter,
mm,
the mission that I was on to prove from my husband straight down that there was no way
mm,
that I was going to be 100% a full time wife
mm,
and be a full time mother and not also be a full time coach, be a
mm.
full time leader, be a full time purpose driven person. There was no way that I wasn't going to do all of those. And I was ready to show the world that this is how it's done. And
Absolutely.
sure enough, to my happiness, to my joy, to my success, to my parents being proud of me, I have been able to be a wife,
I love it.
full blown,
Uh-huh.
to be a mother, full blown,
Mhm.
and be great in the world.
Absolutely.
Now, did I have to do some aligning
Mhm.
and some balancing and some adjustments? Absolutely. Did I have to balance the scale?
Mhm.
Yes, I should. I should have to manage all the things I have to manage, but I was able to do it all because I wanted it all and it was aligned with who I am.
Mm,
And so now here I am producing a brand new podcast, 7 months pregnant.
mm,
I was talking to a girlfriend of mine this morning and we were talking about the podcast and some new things that she is doing and I'm doing. I'm like, and here I am trying to do it pregnant. And
Mm.
she was like, yeah, you are definitely gonna birth hard workers because grass is never gonna grow
Uh-huh.
where your feet because you don't stay still. Like I don't stay still or I don't just sit. And I'm like, grass growing? I say, who got time for that?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, unless I'm in a situation where I need to be bedridden
Mm-hmm.
or I can't because my pregnancy is so hard
Mm.
or I don't have the resources, thank God,
Mm.
to have my daughter taken care of so that I can be here for you.
Mm.
If there's something stopping that, then that's a different story.
Right.
But when I have no excuse, Jamal, I have no excuse
Mm.
why I can't show up for you, why I can't show up for the ladies and gentlemen listening to the sound of my voice right now.
Mm. Yeah.
Pregnant, wife, mother,
Mm.
all of it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
literally I get to be all of those things. I get to have both and some.
Yes, yes. And I think
These
you
are the
give people
choices
permission.
that I
You give
make.
permission. I think a lot of times we're
Absolutely.
waiting for permission. And sometimes some of the people who make the biggest impacts, they don't they not only don't wait on permission, they're willing to break some of the rules.
Hello.
Because some of the rules that have been created have only been created as barriers. And sometimes you need to be able to first be able to win at the game is understand the rules so you know how to break them and when to break them. But also, am I willing to lean all the way in to what
Mm.
seems to be inconvenient? Because if you don't mind being inconvenienced, you can do a lot of great things. But also, what I love about what you're saying is, I'm not going to put myself in a box. Let the world put me in a box, and then when I finally die, let them bury me in a box. When I have all this limitless potential, and as I look, I thought I wanted twins, but my first one humbled me. I was like, all right, Lord, you knew what I needed. So the fact that you're doing this pregnant, like I think it really asks people, are you interested in greatness or are you committed? Because when you're interested, you're going to find an excuse. When you're committed, you're going to find a way.
Oh, so my story goes all the way back to the first thing you told us.
Mm-hmm.
Safe would be me doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And safe would be me sitting up with my foot crossed as the months go on in this pregnancy. That would be safe. That would be me settling for safe. Being able to cook food for my husband, being able to take care of my daughter and do absolutely nothing. That
Mm-hmm.
would be safe. But when greatness,
Mm-hmm.
I had to look because I had to write it down. When greatness is an option,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I can't just sit down and cross my legs. I literally get to talk to my husband. We communicate how we're going to do it all. And he is the greatest supporter of all of my dreams, of all of my purpose, of all of my vision. I love him to pieces because he is my support. Like you say, that one thing we need, that one of those three, four things we need to succeed. He's there for that. And so I get to do all of that. And then when I need to sit down and cross my leg because I've been working all day, then I get to do that too. But purpose and alignment, those two things go hand in hand. And I find that because what I'm doing is people driven, is purpose driven, therefore people driven, it may not always be easy, but I find great joy. I find great inspiration. Forget motivation. Like Jamal says, motivation is driven by emotions. I don't feel like it all the time, but it is truly, it inspires me to those who are listening, who are 5 steps behind me. Some of you may be 10 steps ahead of me. And then there are some of you who I don't know, you might be walking with me. It is you. It is you that I do this, no matter what it takes, no matter how it takes. And then we have someone like Jamal who has blessed the podcast with so many gems. I'm scared to even ask him. Jamal, give us the best advice. I'm scared to ask for any more advice. However, you can never have too much wisdom. So, Jamal, as we close, what is the best advice you will give to our listeners today?
Ooh, first, let me say thank you on behalf of all the people who are going to be impacted by your yes, because your yes is expensive. And many times we don't we say yes to so many different things and we have to say no to other things as a result. So I just want to say thank you for all of the women, the mothers who are looking to be able to say, I've been hiding behind my purpose by just being a mother and a wife, that I can be more. For the little girls who've been told this is all you can be, and they hear your podcast, they hear your story, they hear about your leg and say, no, I'm gonna put a couple more things about what I can accomplish. for the men who need to see powerful women show up in the way that they do and have balance, have elegancy, have a level of class, and be able to show up. Thank you, because you model something that's kind of foreign in our world today, in our space today. My greatest wisdom would probably be, however great that you want to be in the world, serve at that level, because service is the conduit for greatness. One of the people that when he had the greatest principles in the world, he says, however great that you want to be, serve at that level. People ask me, how do I get access to millionaires? I think I probably have like 6 or 7 millionaire mentors. And I said, I serve at such an exceptional level that you can't forget who I am. But I also serve with integrity. And so integrity and service will open up doors that your bank account can never do, that your relationships can never do. I'm invited into spaces that I know there's no way possible I'm supposed to be in unless destiny told me I'm supposed to be here. And for those people who are frustrated with time, allow time to catch up with destiny. Work on your character and your personality and your where you know you might be liable in your characters, in your character flaws. Work on those, because just because the door hasn't opened doesn't mean that you shouldn't do the work in the hallway. So if there isn't a table.
Hey, hold on, sir. Just because,
Mm,
let's talk about it. Oh, we don't have time to talk about it, but I gotta say it.
mm,
Just because the door isn't open
yet.
yet doesn't mean that you can begin the work in the hallway.
Mm,
Oh, talk about taking advantage of everything
yes.
that is available to you until what you want transpires.
Don't waste it, because the masterpiece gets to show you how that piece that you think is not valuable, how it's the very centerpiece for everything that you're going to be doing next.
Jamal, we don't have enough time for you. We don't have enough time for you.
Mm,
Thank you so,
absolutely.
so very much.
My
Please remember
pleasure.
that service is key. And Jamal said it best. At whatever level you want to be great, serve at that level. I love that. Jamal, thank you so, so very much.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for making the imparting of just who you are and what you have so easy.
Mm,
I'm sure the ladies and gentlemen have been inspired. They've been motivated for the next 90 days. And hopefully they've been moved and transpired to take
mm,
action today as they pursue and live out their life's purpose boldly.
mm,
Boldly. We are very, very grateful. As we close, I do want to end on, apart from purpose, one of my greatest notes, because one of the best things that I love in the entire world is food.
mm.
I love food. Like I say, it shows up when I look in the mirror. It shows up when I try to put on an outfit that can't fit. But hey, who cares?
Oh,
It
taste
makes
and see.
it gives me joy. I just love it. So please tell us, what is your favorite food? What is your favorite restaurant?
So I love cheesecake. That is like,
Okay.
whoo, cheesecake is, and I love some pasta. So cheesecake and pasta are, and then jambalaya, like a good jambalaya with all the chicken and all the, whew,
Uh huh.
all day, jambalaya all day.
I
Um,
like that he had like three things. Just
look, he said I don't. It's not this or that. It's and or both.
I know both. There you have it, guys. What is your favorite restaurant? I
My favorite
love it.
restaurant might be, I would have to say, it's probably Carrabba's, because they have good pasta.
Okay, so you like Italian?
Yeah, I like some good pasta. But if I had to say who has the best jambalaya, what's the name of it? It's oh my goodness, I forgot the name of it. But it's out of they have it here in California. Well, they had it in California, but they have the best jambalaya. I forgot the name of the place, but it's on my favorites in my phone. Trust me.
Sure. Yes, I know Carab as well. Oh, that's funny. Both and guys. You can have the cheesecake and the jambalaya
Yes.
and the what was the third one?
So the jambalaya is the pasta, and it's
And the pasta.
and the cheesecake.
You can have it all. And sometimes when it comes to food, you can have it all at the same time.
Look,
You have been enjoying another great episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. Again, I am your beautiful host, Charissa Monroe Wilborn, and I hope until next time, you have a great and amazing day. See you soon. Bye. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap on this episode of the Purpose Finder podcast. I hope today's conversation lit a fire within you, because purpose isn't just something you chase. It is something you live every single day. If this episode resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more people on their journey to purpose. Let's continue the journey together. Join the Purpose Finder community on Facebook for exclusive insights, tools, and a tribe of purpose-driven people just like you. And remember, the two most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day you find out why. Your purpose isn't far off. It's already within you. It's time for you to uncover it and live it boldly. Until next time, stay inspired, stay intentional, and keep walking in your purpose.